Okay, we're finally back in Poland. It's been a while since I did a vlog update. What I'm going to do is do a recap of the Vegas trip. It's a super challenging trip. This is going to be a recap of what happened down there, and I'm going to have a couple of graphs with it. So I've got a graph of the cash game play and a graph of my tournament play, and we'll run through the various ups and downs and what happened in the 6 weeks that I was in Vegas. Let's get into it. Let's start with the cash game. Basically, straight off the bat, I was down a couple of $1,000, and I think the reason for that is I came in a bit hot. I thought I was going to come in there, just bang, 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 just start, I don't know, make a whole bunch of money. There were some good players in the games. There was this crew of, like, the Russian mafia was in there. There was, like, 6 different Russians that were patrolling the table, playing Big O, so they were patrolling the Big O tables. These guys were good players, and I only, towards the end of the trip, started figuring out a couple of them and how they played. But they were owning me. Games just weren't particularly good. That put me in kind of a downer, a bit of a bad mood. You'll see there's a little flat period there. I took a couple days off through the 5th, 6th, 7th of June. When I got back into it, I was refocused. Really just sat there and grinded. Very proud of the way I played. Got myself way back up to even. I call this stretch good mark. The next stretch is horrendously bad mark, otherwise known as the puntopotamus. It likes to punt off chips. So over the 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th of June, so over about a 5-day period, I dropped pretty much exactly $3,000. I would say $1,500 of that was just punting it away. Yeah! Not much to be said about that other than, well, it was just horrible. Horrible. Horrible result. From there, I decided to kind of coincided with when the big tournaments were starting. A couple of the World Series tournaments were kicking off, and so I decided to take a pretty long break. See, there's a 2-week kind of flat period there in the graph where I was basically playing tournaments and a little bit of hold'em cash here and there, 1-3 hold'em, which kind of I broke even in, as you can see from the ups and downs on the no limit hold'em graph. After that, I felt like my mind was back in the game, and I came back rejuvenated, ready to kind of focus and really try and put in some hours, try and basically just play well. We got there. We got back to even, but it wasn't to last long. Lost $1,000 after getting back to even, and so we ended up down about $1,000 overall for the cash games, which, given where I was and how I played at sub stretches, I'm actually pretty happy with. Ended up playing, I think, about 120 hours overall of cash games, mostly at the Rio, playing the 125 Big O game. Pretty happy with the result in the end. I'll take it. There was a lot that I learned from the trip. I don't want to get into too much hand analysis from the cash games, mainly because I can't really remember many other hands. But there was one hand in particular that had the potential to be the biggest pot I've ever played. I will run through that one with you because I think it was a really difficult and interesting spot. So it's in a 125 Big O game. The blinds are 1 and 2, and there's a $5 mandatory button straddle. So the blinds act first in this game. The small blind calls for $5. I'm in the big blind. I look down at ace 2, 4, 5, 8 with 3 clubs and call in the big blind. And it folds around to a fish in middle position who has a $500 stack, and he raises to $25. There's 2 calls behind from the cutoff and the button, and then the small blind calls, and I call. A quick kind of overview on stack sizes here. So the cutoff and the button both have about $600 each. The small blind has $2,000 in front of them, and I have $3,000. So the small blind and I have the potential to play a really big pot. Anyway, the flop comes down king, 6, 7, 1 club, otherwise rainbow board. So we flop the nut low draw with ace 2, full wrap with 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. A 3 gives us the nuts, a 4 gives us the nuts, a 5 gives us the 8 high straight, an 8 gives us an 8 high straight, the 9 gives us the 9 high straight. Pretty good flop for us. The small blind checks. I check, hoping that the fish will bet because he's been very active betting with marginal hands, just basically playing badly. So my hope is that he'll bet, and then I can raise him all in with my hand and put him all in on the flop. So the small blind checks, I check, and then the fish bets $100, which is exactly what I wanted. The cutoff folds, the button folds, and then the small blind, who has $2,000 in front of him, starts going into the tank. He sits there for maybe a minute and a half or so, and then he says pot. And what that means is that he is raising the full amount of the pot. His raise ends up being $525. So he stole my move. And this puts us in a pretty interesting spot. The small blind has $2,000, so he has $1,500 behind him still. He's basically trying to tell us that he has top set, and I don't really have any reason not to believe him. He's been playing solid, hasn't made too many kind of errors or obvious mistakes, hasn't been out of line for the 3 hours or so that I've been playing with him. Even against top set, we're in good shape. Basically, any low card is good for us. I have the second nut low if an ace or a deuce comes and counterfeits our nut low draw. I'm never folding this hand, obviously, but the question was whether I wanted to pot it here and put in $2,000 on this flop, or call and try and get the fish to call as well, put his $500 in, basically dead, because if I pot it, then maybe he folds. If a low turn card comes, my opponent's going to be in a tough spot because he's in the small blind, which means I have position on him for the side pot because I'm the big blind. But then the problem with that is if a high card comes on the turn and he pots it into us, you know, that's a tough spot. Decided to take, I guess it's a more conservative line. I decided to take the more conservative line and just call his pot bet, hoping to get the fish in there and then looking to play turn cards in position. That was the line that I took. I don't know whether that's the optimal line or not. I would probably suggest that it's not, because my hand is never too much of a dog against anything other than maybe ace deuce 3 and a set, or ace deuce and a set sort of thing. The turn comes the jack of spades, which is a horrible turn card for our hand. It doesn't give us the option for backdoor clubs. It brings a spade flush draw now, and it's a high card, which means that our opponent can, if he's willing to keep telling his story that he has top set, he's going to pot this all day, every day. That's what happens. The small blind pots it into us for the remaining $1,500 that he has. I tanked and reluctantly let go of my hand at this point. The spade was not a good card. I didn't like it at all. I think if the card had been another rainbow card, I might have put it in. I'm not sure, but the fact that it was a spade, it takes away a lot. It potentially takes away a lot of our outs. If our opponent now has spades, all of our low cards that are spades no longer give us the nut straight or ace straight. They'll only give us half the pot with the ace deuce, maybe. Reluctantly, I let go of my hand. The results are, well, because they're all in for the main pot with the fish in there, my opponent, who's in the small blind, turns over his hand. He has king 7, 2, 4, and I can't remember the other card, but he has top 2 pair. He had top 2 pair on the flop, a deuce 4 low draw, and now he's picked up spades as well. The fish doesn't show his hand because you don't have to in a cash game, and the river comes the 3 of hearts, which would have given us all of the pot, $4,600 or $700 pot, if we put the money in. That's a big pot, a big pot. I discussed this hand with a couple of friends, a couple of other Big O players that I know. The consensus was that I didn't play it horribly. Maybe I didn't take the optimal line, which probably is to pot the flop. It avoids a situation like I got in on the turn with the jack of spades. But I'm still not entirely convinced. I think my line is fine. The fact that we have position and hoping to get the fish in there with his 500 dead money, I think my line is probably okay. It was a hell of a hand, and after that, after I folded it, I had to leave the table. It's hard to fold a hand like that and then see the result and realize you would have won a $4,700 pot. It's hard to stay right here. So, yeah, I mean, it was a hell of a hand. You be the judge. I'm interested to hear if anyone has any comments on that hand, how they would have played it, how they would have approached it. I'd never been in a spot like that, and I guess that's some good experience for me in a bigger game and making decisions that are worth that much money.
This video is already getting way too long. Instead of putting my tournament results and graph and talking through that on this video, I'm going to do a separate video with that. I think on the second video I'll do a little recap about the things that I learnt from the Vegas trip, which was a lot. I might just leave you with a montage of some of the other stuff that was happening around Vegas. Finish off this one with a little bit of, I don't know, Vegas scenery.
On camera. You would love for him to bang your sister?
He's a successful, young, attractive guy. Like,
And a good guy.
We're still working the system. What's that? You gotta give me at least, what was it, Gyllenhaal?
Gyllenhaal? That's an actor.
What's the... Martingale.
Martingale, what the fuck is that?
He's a genius!